issue here is an issue of competence, and that's my first comment, is that and perhaps you should communicate to your accounting officers, not just in the traditional sense of being an accountant, but accounting officers in terms of fiduciary responsibility. If you look under Section 149 of the PFM Act, it's very clear on these accounting officers and their roles. Then if you look under, not article, but Section 149 of the PFM Act, and then you also look at the Section 199 all the way to Section 200 of the PFM Act, issues such as lack of proper record keeping, these accounting errors are actually put as serious violations of the accounting standards. And, our legal team perhaps could read for you, but I'll save you that. But just note those parts of the law. They are actually punishable by law. So there is no, unfortunately, in law, there is no small or big accounting error. All of them are considered the same. To the extent that it will be important that you tell your accounting officers to make sure that they live up to the standards. And you have talked about taking them for further training, and if people are not going through those trainings, we'll have a problem, including things like ISPAC membership and renewals. We look into those. We won't go into those today, but I think they should know that there are very serious issues for which you can be able to actually take action and sanction them accordingly. I think Mark Gasanja has got something to say.
Yeah, maybe Chair, just on your mentioning the law, I just want to mention the Section 62 of the Public Audit Act on late submission or failure to submit documents to the auditor. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I think that's also very critical, Governor, that your accounting officers pay attention to Section 62 of the Public Audit Act for late submission of documents or not submitting documents at all for one reason or another, because that's also punishable. And this committee had made a decision, a radical decision, that we will be punishing officers who violate those pieces of the law. Then the last thing is just that there are a number of them. You'll go through them with the auditor. There are a number of issues here that are not addressed on those particular audit queries, and then there's those that are partially addressed. I wanted to request that you harmonize this with the auditor in the next 14 days, so that the issue that will be resolved in the next financial year as a matter of accounting, auditor take note, so that they are solved as such. But for those that need updated documentations, so that we can solve them now, rather address them now, because solving will do the resolution in our reports, but make sure that in the next 14 days you harmonize all those areas with the auditor, the issues that are lying unaddressed in those particular audit queries. So with that, in the Climate Change Fund for the year ended 30th June 2024, I want us just to look at one audit query substantially, and that will be the audit query on failure to allocate funds to the wards. That is under reports on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources. Auditor, do you want to read for us that query?
Thank you, Chair. The issue on failure to allocate funds to the wards. Audit review revealed that there was no evidence that the fund administrator developed, published, and circulated information on the disbursements of funds available to each ward. Further, there was no evidence that there were any disbursements of the funds to the wards, contrary to Section 20 of the Trans-Nzoia County Climate Change Fund Act 2021, which requires that the fund administrator shall develop, publish, and circulate information on the disbursements of funds available to each ward, which shall be approved by the County Planning Committee, and disbursement of funds shall be based on cash flow projections submitted by implementers of the activities financed by the fund. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, your response?
Our management response, Chair, is as follows. There was adequate planning of disbursement of the wards as per the approved work plan for the financial year 2023-2024. However, this was not realized due to late disbursement of funds from donors. We have Appendix 12 is attached, the approved work plan for the said financial year 2023-2024. Appendix 13, the funds allocation criteria. Appendix number is that 15, 14. Ward Climate Change Planning Committee meeting attendance register. Appendix 15, report on dissemination of funds disbursement towards. Appendix 16, Ward Climate Change Planning Committee minutes for the meetings held. And lastly, Appendix 17, local fund disbursement schedules. So the main issue here, Mr. Chairman, is that we're not able to disburse the funds because the funds were not there. They have not been received.
Auditor, what is your take on that response?
Chair, the management has not been able to show evidence of the disbursements to the ward during the year 2023-2024.
What do you need as the auditor to be able to address this? What kind of documentation would satisfy this, given the act from the Assembly?
Chair,
from the county?
What we intend to do is review the 2024-2025 allocations to the wards, because for the year 2023-2024, the disbursements were done late in June 2024 and in July 2025. So the activities of the fund were carried out during the current financial year. Yes.
So you want to see whether the management disbursed funds within 2024-2025?
Yeah.
That's well put. Governor, are you getting the concern here? The auditor? Yes, because you've indicated that there was late disbursement in the previous year.
The one that we're talking about 23-24.
Yes.
But we still received the funds actually after the financial year, and I think we've disbursed the funds for 2024-2025. Now the year is under audit.
Auditor?
Thank you, Chair. That is the correct position. We are currently reviewing the audit of 2024-2025. So the auditors are on the ground. So they will be reviewing what the activities of the fund for the 2024-2025. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, but so because Governor is under oath, perhaps I'll let the senators interrogate whether there's actually evidential, indication that these funds have been, because we take this issue of the wards very seriously. Senator Chimera, I see you have got something to say.
Thank you, Chair. I just I take with a lot of concern the wording from the AG's office. And the words is that there was no evidence that there were any disbursements of these funds to the wards. Is that still your position as you sit now, or this evidence was finally availed to you and you're satisfied that these funds, whether they came late, actually reached the intended persons or the intended wards?
And maybe to add on what Senator Chimera has said, actually the auditor used two very also said the
the funds were dispersed late. Some in June and then some in July. I wanted to find out then from the OAG is what happens in this case, that the funds have arrived late and they are not able to disperse to the ward. In the next financial year, which is the last financial year, the daily vote, the daily budget, so that basically it means nothing was spent in this prior year, and they have rebudgeted to spend on the last financial year that ended in June. So I just wanted to understand so that we know that it means 0% on the budget was spent, and then now we are spending the total budget on this last financial year. So that, you know, these are similar issues. If the county executive is in breach of the law and they didn't receive the funds, what happens?
And Chair, if the county government received money is late and there's no actual spending by way of disbursing the same to the ward funds, then you see you cannot say there's no evidence that this money was not disbursed, because these wards, no evidence, and the expenditure is what is riling up the committee auditors. So please explain to us clearly so that we know who is at fault here. We're not saying it is you, but then again, if funds come in late, how do we treat these funds? Does the governor have to just send to the ward funds because the law complies and asks him to send the money to the ward funds? Or the governor can wait and realize evidence to spend this money?
Auditor, just about just clarity. I think so you can help just the members to understand a little bit more.
Mr. Chairman, before the auditor comes in,
Just wait, because I want to make sure that there is harmony between the auditor and the members, just in terms of understanding.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, we have received the information that the funds were actually disbursed in the current financial year 2024-2025. And as we go to the ground, we shall use this list and also check on the activities that were, if it is, they are climate change related. So if it was tree planting, our officers will be going and checking whether there are trees which were planted, or tree nurseries, or if, I don't know, what other activities are involved in the Flocker Fund. So that's one thing. The other issue is that as at the point of the audit, the county had 373, was it 371 million? They had received 371 million, which they had not disbursed. And what was remaining was their portion. It's called co-funding. So, yes, they had received money from World Bank, but they had not fully funded their portion. That is the fact. So we say, yes, there was a breach in the law. However, it is correctable. We will be checking in the current year whether those activities that should have been undertaken then, together with the activities for this year. So we shall be checking 2-year activities to see whether they have been able to undertake those activities. Thank you, Chair.
Governor, perhaps for the comfort of the committee, could you share with us what was the anticipated amount from the financing partner that delayed, and then to the comfort of the committee, what was the responsibility on the county executive of from your side to the same fund, so that we understand just the entire amount that was involved, and whether now that amount has all been disbursed in this current financial year. What is the rough estimate that each ward was supposed to get? Then the last question would be, what is in this financial year, is there the same anticipation of the same funds? Or is there a different amount that is anticipated from the same donor? And your executive's contribution, what is it? Because they're saying that they're going to be looking at the two activities. So just get us into those details on the funds that were anticipated, what each one were expecting, and which one delayed, I mean, to the extent that if your contribution did not delay, I think the 371 million that the auditor is referring to was a contribution from the county government. Is it, auditor? Is that true, auditor?
No, that was from the donor.
From the donor?
Yeah.
And that one was already received by the time of audit?
Yes.
Yeah, so was that to all the wards?
The issue here is that we had budgeted for these funds, and therefore prepared the work schedule for these funds. That's what the auditors saw when they came for audit. The problem is that we did not have the money. Where the money was coming from the donor. We received the money after the closure of the financial year. Actually, after 31st of November, of May.
How much was the money?
You cannot make any. Are they supposed to be told that 4 million?
How much?
Donor. Stood at 4 million from the World Bank. 113. So, Chairman, if you look at our report on page 39, all the way to 39. Sorry. From page 115 all the way to the last page, it shows the disbursements. As per that schedule we had developed, we are waiting for the funds. The funds have since been disbursed. So it means for the auditors now to come and confirm on the ground to confirm that indeed these funds have been disbursed. But we have a record here on how we've disbursed these funds when we received them.
I think that's then straightforward, because even if we belabor on this, the only time you can be able to fully confirm this is in the next audit cycle.
Yes.
I think that's how this happens, right? So we will keep it under review, and then in the next audit cycle, please, clerk, take note that this would be a substantive query that will be able to harmonize with what the governor has given today. So in that case, we proceed to the next fund. I wanted to check on the Nawiri fund. Yeah, so the Nawiri fund, auditor, I think because we had canvassed around the issues of unsupported depreciation and amortization expenses, inaccuracies, basically all the accounting issues we had canvassed on. So, Governor, on this particular report, what will be our query? Number one would be again on report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources. And on this, we will look into query number one on that, which is lack of an insurance policy for the loans disbursed. And then we will also look at the query on unapproved internal borrowing. It was partially addressed, but we'll just comment on that. I just want your comment on that, Governor. We will not read that particular one. And then we will look into long outstanding unaccounted interest. Yeah, I think then the last one, we will look at long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions. Is that okay, members? Yes. So let's start with lack of an insurance policy for the loans that were disbursed in this fund. Auditor, take it on. That would be the query. If you look under report on lawfulness and effectiveness in the use of resources, it's the first query under that. Auditor.
A lack of an insurance policy for the loans disbursed. The statement of financial position reflects current portion of long-term receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 52,789,305. The balance includes an amount of Kenya shillings 49,224,184 relating to loans disbursed on 17th May 2024. However, management did not secure an insurance policy for the loans. This was contrary to Section 10, subsection 1 of the Trans Nzoia County Nawiri Fund Account 2015, which states that the board shall have all the powers necessary for the functions and proper performance of its functions under this Act, and subsection 2H further states that without prejudice to the generality of the provisions of subsection 1, the board shall have authority to take out insurance cover for risky loans such as death, incapacity, or inability to pay, as the board deems fit. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law. Thank you, Chair.
Could I request, because I'm trying to make sure that we are using our time efficiently, could I request that you further read the long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions? Because when I read that query, I realized that actually they are related. They are actually related with this particular query. So then Governor will respond to the two of them together.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Long outstanding receivables from exchange transactions. The statement of financial position reflects portion of long-term receivables from exchange transactions balance of Kenya shillings 3,984,646 as disclosed in Note 7 to the financial statements. The balance includes an amount of Kenya shillings 160,000 disbursed between 2016 and 2018 to 3 youth and women groups in the county. However, more than 6 years after the loans were disbursed, the groups have not repaid any amounts towards principal and interest. The management has not provided measures it has put in place to recover the outstanding loans. In the circumstances, the effectiveness of the controls and management of the recovery of disbursed loans could not be confirmed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Governor, your responses to those two queries?
Mr. Chairman, you realize that query number 7 is talking about 2016 to 2018, very many years ago before you came into office. We've learned our lessons, and that's why we've really improved the management.
Governor, I wanted you to read your responses.
So is that the first one?
Yeah, the first one, then the second one, then you can be free to make a comment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on lack of insurance policy, the management response is as follows, Mr. Chairman. For the reference period, the Trans Nzoia County Nawiri Fund Board did not consider loans issued out through Nawiri Fund as risky, and therefore resolved not to insure. Following the prior year's experiences, Nawiri program was redesigned to mitigate the inherent risk of default by loanees through the adoption of a loaning strategy that is tied to LPO/LSO financing, which is linked via the bank and IFMIS system to facilitate automatic recovery of loan amounts. However, the board, to conform with the law, the board intends to ensure that all future loans issued are insured in accordance with the provisions of the Act. We've put an Appendix 3, which is an extract of the minutes of the board discussing the issue of the loan, and of course Appendix 4, which is a design of the loan agreement form. So, Mr. Chairman, The remarks I wanted to add.
Next, read the next.
The next one.
The next one, then you can make the comments together because they are very related.
On the long outstanding receivables from the exchequer, from exchange transactions, the management response is as follows. The fund confirms the details of the outstanding receivables in table 1. Number 1, bus park, 8,000. 2, UMAC Cottage Industries, 23,500. Romish Electricals, 30,000. Number 4, Simeyu Mabonga Gumbei, 20,000. 5, Violet Nanjala, 40,000. 6, Mary Namweya Wakoli, 5,000. Wilkesa Nekesa, number 7, 5,000. Beatrice Hassandi, number 8, 5,000. Daniel Legosi, number 9, 5,000. Lilian Musheti, number 10, 13,000. And Patrick Wanyonyi, number 11, 5,500. Total, 160,000. There have been attempts to recover these loans, but the count has not been successful. Therefore, we have now embarked on the process of having these debts written off through a process that will culminate in a final approval in the count assembly. We have attached Appendix 11, which are demand letters issued out to defaulters, and Appendix number 12, the request to write off the debts that have been outstanding for too long.
So go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, what we've developed as a strategy in Trans Nzoia is that there is this 30% uphold that has not been working very well because the people who are targeted do not have capital to do business with the county governments. So using Nawiri, we've developed a strategy where groups who qualify under ACUP arrangement, once they're given an LSO, they benefit from this fund, the Nawiri fund. We give them sufficient funds